today. My name is George McDowell, and I'm here with my wife, Dr. Natalie Nicole.
Hello, everybody.
And our first candidate that we have that's running for District 5 is Mr. I'll introduce yourself. But yeah, did you want to add anything before we?
No, let's get started.
Okay, so yeah, without further ado, we're going to get started with our first candidate running for District 5, and we'll let you introduce yourself and give a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Robert Wadkins Jr. I am born and raised here in Columbus. I live here with my wife, Kern, who's the executive director of the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. And we have two children, Bert and Clementine. So Columbus is definitely our home. As I was telling you before, I'm a graduate of Pacelli High School. I graduated in 2001. I followed that up with University of Georgia and then University of Alabama for law school. So came back in 2010, have been focused primarily on criminal defense, litigation in federal and superior court. In 2020, I became the city attorney for Hamilton. So I've represented other municipalities since then. Additionally, I serve on boards of various professional organizations, nonprofits, and recently here I was appointed as the vice chair of the new Sports Entertainment Authority.
Okay.
So that's kind of a little bit about what I do and kind of where I come from. So yeah.
Okay. So our next question we want to ask and lead with is, what is your vision as a District 5 City Council representative? What do you see, in the future for District 5?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, so my vision personally, and what I want to put out there, I kind of have three areas I want to focus on. One is addressing attainable housing and home ownership. I think the recent Georgia Tech housing study shows that we are way off where we should be in the proportions of our residents who are renters versus homeowners, and we need to get more home ownership, and trying to help that. Part of what I would like to do is to rejuvenize neighborhoods and to get that started by doing some projects that deal with blight reduction. I've spoken with Siobhan Thomas and some people at the solicitor's office, and I think we could implement a quality of life unit similar to what they have in DeKalb County, where we have a member of the solicitor's office, an attorney with the city attorney's office that just prosecutes blight and illegal dumping. I know that's something a lot of people are concerned about. And using that to then fold into the land bank and some other things. So I think you kind of kill two birds with one stone. You're addressing, blight, but you're also jumpstarting neighborhood rejuvenation. So that access to justice is a huge problem. So one thing I would like to do is to push for more staff attorneys and clerks for our judges, to give them the resources to handle the caseloads that we are asking them to take on. I'd also like to advocate for a full-time, at least one more full-time juvenile court judge. Currently we have two full-time juvenile court judges and 200,000 plus residents. If you look at Savannah, Augusta, Macon, all of those places have more juvenile court judges, and we're kind of seeing that. But generally, so those are kind of some specifics. Generally, I want to try and restore trust in local government. I want to bring my experience from the courtroom, a level of professionalism, a level of competence, to where people don't think they're being sold something when there's a local government issue. So that's kind of my vision for what I see for Columbus.
Okay. Now, if you could summarize that so that our audience and people who are watching could explain everything in detail, how would you summarize your vision in a concise manner so that everybody understands specifically what your vision is for District 5?
Intentional leadership.
Okay. Awesome.
Intentional leadership. Thoughtful, intentional leadership.
Okay.
And I think that's something we've gotten away from.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so the next question I have is, what role should city council play in public safety beyond improving the police? What you being a criminal defense attorney and dealing with, those things, how could you speak to that?
Sure.
For District 5?
I think setting policy, one of the things that city council has to do is, city council has to approve litigation. And litigation coming from incidents related to public safety. So you can't just set the budget and say, we're not gonna direct policy. And I think one of the things, or a couple of the things that I've looked at as far as public safety specifically is just promoting the ethical use of new technologies. One of the things that people are very concerned about is flash cameras.
Yes.
And I will tell you, it would be easy to pander and say we need to get rid of flash cameras, and I'm very much a privacy guy, but I've also seen firsthand flash cameras solve murders. Flash cameras have shown people who are accused of murder to be innocent. Flash cameras aren't going anywhere. So how can we put some guidelines in place to make sure that people's data is protected, that there is some civilian oversight over, so that somebody at CPD isn't just searching for their ex-girlfriend, or, we need to keep some oversight on that, but be able to use the tools that we have effectively. The other side of that is the speed cameras. Coming from the municipal side of things, having represented other municipalities, speed cameras work. Speed cameras absolutely change behavior of drivers, and you can see that in numbers, because they'll put a new speed camera up, there'll be X amount of tickets, in 6 months it'll be down 80%. So you are reducing speeding. The problem is where citizens think they're being policed. They think that it's a revenue thing, and that goes back to my trust in local government. I think trying to do away with speed cameras and finding other ways to reduce behavior without citizens feeling like it's a trap, it's a money grab. So those are the kind of policy things that I would go to with public safety.
So, from what you've already told us, it's clear that you have background and understanding, and sometimes that's a concern for citizens. As we sit out in the audience and we watch city council meetings, sometimes we wonder, do they even have a clue about things that are being presented, on the public agenda or on the meeting agenda as it is? And so could you tell us, it seems like based on just your lived experience, you have a lot of knowledge about things that's going on, but what did you do to prepare for this race to be the next District 5 City Council representative?
Sure. So I work a lot with the Georgia Municipal Association, just through my work representing the city of Hamilton and some other municipalities. And there are a substantial amount of minutia that goes into ordinance drafting and, as we've seen recently, charter amendments, that's come up. So specifically, I try to just stay involved, make sure I have a good handle on the information that's out there, the issues that are being discussed, but procedurally is staying on top of municipal ordinances and those sorts of things.
And if you had to say what was the difference between you and the current District 5 representative, how would you improve, like 3 things that you would improve or 3 things that you think that are going well?
Well, I think that I think there is a lot of grandstanding. I think you can't afford on the local government level to have political theater. People's trash has to be picked up.
That's right.
The police officers need the resources that they need. Our local, nobody else is going to do it for us. And so this isn't Atlanta, this isn't Washington. It's not a place to have content, it's not a place to, it's a place that you need government and good government. So that's what I think that I would bring to the table. I'm not looking for attention. I don't have an agenda. I don't have somebody that I'm specifically grudge against. It's just offering myself up for service and, having the citizens know that I'll be prepared. Everything will be, and try and value their time. Because we've all been to council meetings,
Yes.
and citizens shouldn't have to wait 4 or 5 hours to get their business handled before council.
Right.
And a lot of it is counselors or other people involved in the meetings wanting to say something.
Absolutely.
Just wanting to echo what's been said, and when that goes around 9 times, it wastes the public's time, and it's an access to your government. So I do think that access to council is important. I think public agenda is incredibly important, but I think that everybody being prepared, everybody not finding information out in real time, I think that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you mentioned that allowing the public to get their business done, because what we have noticed is that when city council needs to leave, they'll move things around on the agenda to ensure that they can leave and get things done, but not that consideration for citizens. So I like that you brought that up.
And also, and this is why we're doing this forum, because the citizens need to vote informed. So when you talk about grandstanding and things that are happening with current city council, that is a great point that you made. We do these forums so people can be not only engaged, but to understand the candidates who are running, like your vision, and to understand, how city politics works. Because local government, it impacts our lives, daily, and immediately. So we'll move on to the next question, which is, what's one decision you expect to be unpopular, but you still be willing to support?
The new jail. 100% the new jail. Nobody wants to spend $400, $500 million on a new jail.
Right.
Nobody does.
Right.
But what the citizens, probably what they don't understand, what they don't think about, is that if we don't do something about the jail, then it will be dictated to us. So we have been under consent decrees from the Justice Department before, which basically is where the Justice Department comes in and says, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, we're not going to pay for it, you're going to pay for it, and you have to do that. If we don't do it ourselves, it'll be told to us and it'll be so much more expensive. Spending the right amount of money on the front end will save us millions, on the back end. And it's unpopular. Nobody wants to spend that money on a jail, but we are in desperate need of it.
Right.
And I think that will be coming up soon.
Right.
Yep.
So I don't think that it's that we don't know that we need a new jail. It's the matter of priorities.
Right.
So could you speak to that? Because we have a new baseball field. District 7 wants a soccer complex. There's all these different. We have paddleball. What is it? Pickleball. There's all these things that we invest in, and the things that we truly need, those are the things that they kind of bring later on down the line after everybody's frustrated and it's like, hey, well, why didn't put this money there? So could you speak on priorities as regards, you're one person on the city council, but your influence and ability to, organize and prioritize what's important to the citizens?
So I think it's a balance of wants and needs. So serving on the Sports Entertainment Authority, we have oversight over AJ McClung Memorial Stadium. That is a very special place for me. Growing up here, going to games there, it is it means a lot to me. It desperately needs renovation.
Yes.
And there's nothing more that I want than to say, hey, let's spend a bunch of money, let's make this the jewel of our sporting facilities here in Columbus. We cannot afford it right now. But we have to look at things and capital expenses that what's the return on investment. So I think one good example was Synovus Park. $50 million is a lot of money. When the development comes through, that will be, so the Synovus Park was the bait to get that $400 million development, private development around that area. Once that comes in, and the tax money from that, we start seeing return on investment, that's going to make money. So I think there's a difference between things that are just like, I'd love to have it, versus things we absolutely need, like the jail, and things that are costs up front, but at the end of the day, we're going to reap some return on that. So I think there are different categories, and that's how you start to prioritize, what we need. We have a property tax freeze, so our revenue streams are limited. More businesses, more sales tax, more hotel, motel, more economic development is one way to do that. And I think that's an example of us spending money to make money. Now, am I biased because I love the Flintstones? I go with my family. It's a great place. Yeah, absolutely. But I think those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. I don't think we have to. We can have something that we offer the citizens that we partially subsidize, but it can also make money. So I think that's how I would look at things and try and balance out. I also, I was a history major, and I understand the role that preserving historic buildings and historic places in Columbus. I think there is value to that. I don't think it's necessarily just a spend money to try and make money, but I don't want to get too far in the weeds on that. But that's how I would kind of prioritize things.
Yeah, and Mr. McClellan, he did some great things in Columbus. You know what I mean? So I just think that, like you said, it needs to be preserved. People need to understand not only that that's a pillar, a cornerstone of the community, but it needs to be a high priority, just like Synovus and other things that they're doing in Columbus. But to talk about the jail, would you say, do you think it would be better to just renovate the current jail and maybe add on to that? Or does this new jail, do we really need this new jail? Because you cannot, it's not going to fix the crime problem.
No.
So, if you could just speak to that.
Sure. We absolutely need a new jail. And this is someone who spends 2 or 3 days a week at the jail. If you go to other facilities in comparable cities, we are the worst. That doesn't speak to the sheriff's department, the sheriff's staff. They do a great job with what they have. But this is something that's decades in the making. That we probably needed a new jail 15 years ago. And the reason, so it costs, we spend so much money placing Band-Aids that it's going to be cheaper to build a new jail that runs right, that we don't constantly have to fix. The cost of that is going to be cheaper than keep putting Band-Aids on things. And we saw that with the new judicial building.
Right.
That's another thing that we kept, reached the end of the lifespan of that building, but we kept extending it, with, $600,000 here, $1.1 million here, and that adds up. Right. And if you have a building, if you, start with a new building that runs efficiently, it will help all different areas. It will help the jail being able to provide mental health services, medical services, access to attorneys for attorneys to visit their clients, which moves cases faster, which reduces your jail population. So I think that a new jail is not going to treat the symptoms of crime, but it's going to allow the process to go so much smoother. Right now, I know our courts are frustrated because of the travel time
Right.
That the way the jail is set up, we will bring a group of inmates over for court. There may be 15 to 20, and we'll have 3 or 4 groups. So if you're in the 4th group, you're going to be 4 hours into court before you even get brought over. And so that's a bottleneck that touches so many other places of our justice system, that the efficient function of the jail would allow for other things to happen.
Okay. So one thing that I like so far in this interview is that what I feel like is we go to a meeting, and I can only speak for myself, but we're not given all the details to completely understand decisions. And so that leads to a lot of frustration as well. So in you explaining that the baseball field is a return on the investment, there's going to be development in that area, oftentimes what we've heard is they're voting no against development in that area. And so it's a little bit confusing as to what exactly is going on in the area, what's going to be done. And of course, we are familiar with AJ, and when the gentleman came and he gave a vision of what it could look like, and we were supposed to get another follow-up on that plan and vision. And so I feel, to get to my point, there is a lot of things that are brought to the forefront. We'll get to it in another meeting, and we never get to it. And so as a city council representative, how would you make sure as citizens, we're just not, because I've been on the public agenda multiple times wanting follow-up information about certain things that's been said, and of course, we're still waiting. So how would you, as a person, contribute to that?
Well, I think my experience as an attorney, you have to have an organized, agenda of things that you are prioritizing, going back to, and it can't be reactive to what's going on. So if your top 3 priorities for the next 18 months are jail or AJ McClung renovation, if it's housing and so I'm gonna say I want regular updates from the land bank. I want regular updates from the development authority. Here's kind of the schedule of expectations, and just effectively communicating expectations. I think that's, we are going back to the beginning of what I said or my remarks. We're a place where we have so much grandstanding that you grandstand and you say your piece, and there's no governance. There's no, I want to follow up, I want to do this, or I've looked at this beforehand, and I think X, Y, and Z needs to happen.
Right. Okay.
And I want to see specifically X, Y, and Z. Now, frequently you'll hear counselors say, I want an update on this. Well, do you want an update on, building times? Do you want an update on a development schedule? Do you want an update on revenue projections?
So specifics.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's just a matter of preparedness.
Right. Okay. How do you feel about District 5 right now, the state of your district?
I think that District 5 needs, an infusion of economic development. I think we have seen, institutions like the mall kind of fall off. I think we're having some issues with the airport. And I think we need to take a hard look at some of the things that we have. I think we need to support CSU more. I mean, CSU is a huge driver, economic driver to District 5. It's a huge economic driver for the city. But, the city partnership with CSU is a big part of District 5. So I think there are some incredibly strong points for District 5, but I think that what we can see going forward is what are some new opportunities we have with the airport, with some of that land that's around there. There was talk recently about trying to get an air cargo hub. I think that would be huge for District 5 because, I don't want to get too far into the airport, but we have to realize Atlanta is our airport. We are in Atlanta's airspace. So we're never going to have you're never going to be able to fly to 10 different locations from Columbus.
Right.
So what can our airport be? Because it is an absolute resource, but it's not going to be the resource that people aren't going to be able to fly to Miami from here or other things. So we have to say what can it be realistically, and how can we maximize its value? Air cargo is one of those ways we can do that.
Yeah, for sure. And the Columbus Airport, it's needed, but like you said, there needs to be a specific, because like you said, it's not going to be Atlanta. It's not going to have the same amount of traffic that the Atlanta airport has, but it's definitely needed, and it's definitely can be used to serve Columbus in a better way, in my opinion. So my next question is, going back to public safety and trust, how would you handle a situation where public outcry conflicts with the city staff recommendations?
It's one of those things about restoring trust. I think that if citizens trust you, then when you say things that are not necessarily popular, then it goes down. And I see that's a relationship that I have with my clients. I have to deliver bad medicine all the time. And when my clients know that I have their best interest at heart, that I'm not going to sell them a bill of goods, and that I'm giving it to them straight, they understand it.
Right.
And that's the basis of how I operate. So, understanding people are upset, understanding that they may be very attached to one issue or the other, just going through factually, hey, here's the situation. Right now, our citizens don't believe the facts that they're being told. I don't want to jump into the issue of the data center, but
that makes question.
Okay. Well, I'll illustrate that. You're hearing, I don't personally believe all the benefits of a data center. I also don't believe that it's as bad as some people say. But we are so divided right now. The city government is so in a place where we're not trusted. So we as the citizens, it feels like the other shoe is going to drop, and we just don't trust what the outcomes are.
Absolutely.
I think what Representative Bugner has a bill going through the legislature that will provide. It's a bipartisan bill that's going to provide some transparency as to the actual environmental and economic impact of some of these data centers. And I think that will help, but we don't need Atlanta to come in and say, well, they're telling the truth.
Right.
You can believe it. I think that's kind of a stopgap, but it goes back to restoring trust. Just like I don't want to see something that negatively impacts us environmentally and economically to the detriment of our citizens, also don't want us to miss an opportunity for much needed revenue. So it's that balancing act.
More than anything, I think it's the location. I think citizens do not want it in their backyard. And so they said that we have a technology place where it would better be suited. And I think that's the main concern, on top of, the alleged, border issues. And someone mentioned that it could be another Aaron Brockovich situation down the line. And so what's concerning to me is that we did have a November election where we were voting for PCS, our commissioners, right? Those people who, for the past 6 years or so, we've just had rate increase after rate increase. And so we had that election, and to now hear counselors suggest they have no idea about data centers and they're doing their research, I kind of was confused about how did they vote? What research did they do at that time? And it just lends to, us not trusting their judgment, their knowledge, and that they're actually really in the city council seat because they're here to serve, less of the grandstanding and just having a position. So the data centers are a major concern. I was at the last PAC meeting and they tabled a decision to have the land be available for the data center. And then they said the final decision is up to the city council. So you kind of gave us a little bit of how you feel about it. How would you meet citizens in the middle? Because they were very emotional about, it's 1 mile from my house, it's 2 miles from my house, the noise, all the different concerns. How would you meet your constituents in the middle with this decision?
So I thought one thing that was very helpful was the town hall that Mrs. Kendrick put on initially.
Oh, they don't like her now.
And but she.
They got to hold her in that pack meeting so bad. I felt so bad for her.
I saw that. The town hall at the coffee shop I thought was very helpful because it was a room that was not friendly.
Okay, wow.
And by the end of it, a lot of people had actually changed their minds. Okay. And that's what, and I'm not afraid to say I don't know the answer.
Okay.
I'm not an expert on data centers, environment. I'm not an expert, but I want to learn from the experts, and I wanted to hear from her specifically, and I think she's done a really good job since she's gotten here. On the economic development side.
That she makes them and she moves.
Right.
She came from Rome.
But as far as going back to your point, I think that getting the information and getting it accurately out to people who are open to hearing it is the hardest part. Because there are usually 3 groups of people at those kind of things. The largest groups are the people who have already made up their mind that we need this, and it feels like they are selling it, and they are trying. And the other part is the people who are saying, "Never, I'm never going to support this." And then there's a narrow margin in the middle, and I think most of the citizens in the community fall within that part in the middle where they just want to know which side is telling the truth.
Right.
And or what is the truth. And it's usually somewhere in the middle. Like I said, I don't believe that they're as bad. They don't have as bad an impact as people say, but I don't know that they have as good a financial impact. So we have to look at those things. And I think, so I thought the town hall was helpful. I was very impressed with that, as Missy exercised a lot of patience.
Yeah, she's very good.
But I think just being upfront and honest with the constituents, because I think sometimes we confuse, especially in Columbus, especially in the environment that we have in local government right now, we confuse loud voices for that it's most people.
Right.
And that's not the case.
Right. So, just to add to that, being as though there are 10 of you, right? And this is a major decision, and people are showing up to the meetings, they're getting their education, they're informed, and at the last meeting I went to, they tabled a vote because the consensus was that the citizens didn't want it. Knowing that you have 1 vote, but there's 9 other, how do you bring your expertise to the table to either influence, because what happens is I've said this before, I may only be able to vote for you as my city council representative, but everybody else's decisions affect me, so it's all one situation. So, can you speak to that, your ability to, you all are not allowed to meet, I guess, behind closed doors, you have to sit there and talk in front of the citizens, but how do you get anything accomplished, in the event that you feel strongly that this is a yes or a no, but then you have 9 other people to convince?
So just going, I don't want to get too technical, but city council can meet together just without a quorum.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Right.
And that's a whole
Yeah.
other issue.
Yeah.
But there are work sessions and other things. I think that what I do is my career is largely based on building consensus. That's all parts of my career is negotiation, pointing out here are the strengths and weaknesses of various positions and those sorts of things. So I think I would be very well suited to helping build consensus among the counselors, trying to get the heart of the issue as to like, what's the real problem? Is your opposition to this possibly a pretext because of something else, or do you really feel like this? So I think that's where I would be suited to dealing with the other counselors.
Okay.
And for me, and a lot of citizens in Columbus, like we talked about earlier, transparency is huge. Transparency and communication is huge. And I feel like, and my wife and I talk about this all the time, we feel like that's missing right now among the city council members. Citizens, trust, there's a lack of trust right now. So moving forward, you kind of talked about this already, just moving forward in the future, and I understand you have to collaborate with other city council members, but speaking for yourself, what do you think makes that easier, or, being that you can negotiate in your field of your profession, how do you feel that helps or makes it easier to collab with your other city council members?
I think just having, integrity in how you operate as far as, am I being intellectually honest with my colleagues? Like I said, am I saying, well, we need to wait because we don't have all the information when we do have all the information? Am I trying to punt it? Is this a pretext? Or saying, here's what my actual problem with this is. Is there a solution to that? Is there a way around that? Are there things that we can address to that? Because I think that at the end of the day, a lot of times counselors, and I don't want to paint all the counselors with a brush, but I feel like I see counselors vote the way they feel, but it's not expressed. It's couched as, well, we need a delay, we need more information. If you're against something and your constituents are against it, just vote against it.
Right.
And that goes back to trust. If it's, and I understand nobody wants to make that unpopular decision, but if you say, here's the way I'm voting, and here's why, I think that would go a long way to help restoring that.
For sure. So we thank y'all for being here this morning. We want to give you an opportunity to ask a question. In no particular order, if you want to ask a question, you feel free to ask a question.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Things are changing in the council, the new council. Are you aware of the poverty issue in Columbus Shore?
Absolutely. So one of my areas of practice, so my father was the first chief public defender of this circuit. And when I came in, starting my law practice, a large part of that in both federal and superior court is indigent defense. So when the public defender's office has a conflict, I will take on public defender cases and represent indigent people in court. That is a large percentage of the defendants in our circuit and in our city. So very aware of the poverty issues and the relationship between poverty and crime. Crime doesn't happen because an area is bad or an area is. Crime happens where there's concentrated areas of extreme poverty. That's the recipe for crime. So I see it, every day. I have a full docket of individuals.
Any thoughts on how we can, we got one of the largest precincts, poverty, in the 31903 zip code. And that's the Casino Road precinct. And your area is what?
District 5.
District 5, so it goes from Midtown all the way out to Flat Rock Park through the airport and CSU.
The reason I'm asking you this question, until we start paying people a livable wage, period, we cannot help these folks to start getting their families together, their lives together. Any thoughts on how we can encourage, can make folks do anything with their money, but encourage business, corporations, to consider raising the wages for their employees?
Sure. I think that, you know, the city of Columbus as an employer, and I believe it's the largest employer in the city, or top 3, can start with that, making sure we're paying our employees a livable wage. That's where we start, and then everything else kind of falls into various avenues of economic development is a huge part of that. So if you encourage businesses to come in, if you encourage neighborhood revitalization, those things all, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And so I think that getting businesses to come there, but it goes back where you need workforce training. And businesses don't want to come without workforce training, but you can't train the workforce without, it's a circle that it seems sometimes impossible to, you know, do everything at once. But I think tackling those specific issues one by one, but specifically, I think we need to partner with some of the existing programs that Columbus Tech has, partner with CSU to an extent, to maybe have some offerings that don't include, you know, a 4-year degree, you know, actual job training that would be
vocational.
Yeah, vocational. I think having something that's appealing for a business to move in, where I've got this workforce already trained, or there's programs where I know I can hire from Columbus Tech. You know, every semester I can hire 3, you know, people who work on this machine or that machine. So I don't think it's I don't have, if I had a solution for everything, I would tell you, but I think the most important thing is not having the answers, is to asking the right questions.
Well, we appreciate that, and the 2 other areas that we are very concerned about is public defender. You work for the DA department, I believe.
No, I'm a private attorney.
Okay, have you ever worked with the DA?
No.
Okay.
I worked in the Russell County DA for a summer in law school.
Okay. It has, and this goes in line with, you know, changing this caste system that we have for employment. The public defender's office understaffed, under finance, so folks staying longer in jail and all of that, you know. So we want to see some leadership that will say, okay, this is how we were doing things, let's do things differently.
So just briefly to your point earlier, I mentioned one of the things that I really want to advocate for is an additional full-time juvenile court judge. We do not have the same juvenile court resources that other cities similar size do. And I think we only have 2 full-time juvenile court judges, and you know, the studies show that the most effective way, or the most effective time to address crime is at the juvenile court stage, because if it continues there, the recidivism rates go up, and then we just see it, you know, matriculate on into Superior Court, and there's that school to prison pipeline just kind of maintained. So that's why I would love to see us put some more resources on the front end in our juvenile courts, in our juvenile probation, in those kinds of things, to give our youth the resources they
Who
need.
makes that decision? The state legislature?
It's a mix of both. It's a mix of both. We could add positions. I believe that council has the authority to increase our juvenile court staff, but it's hand in hand with the governor appoints, you know, some of these judges. So it would take a partnership with our local delegation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, good to see you, brother. I don't have any questions, but I would like to share my experience. I've lived in Columbus, Georgia for over 30 years. And when you were speaking about the poverty, how it sort of married, where it comes together with a crime, that is something that I agree to disagree with, because I used to work in North Columbus, okay? And individuals coming from what is the name of that? This where, oh gosh, what's the name of that place? It's like the country club.
Green Island?
Yes, this is facts, okay? On the south side where I live, they always had roadblocks, okay? And in North Columbus, going to work day or night, whatever, people driving past the speed limit, drunken drivers. There were never, ever, ever any policemen up there having roadblocks. They would concentrate on the south side of town, okay? And when it comes to crime, okay, the wealthy families, and this is not only in Columbus, when it comes to drugs, I'm 6 or 7 years old, okay? When white families would get involved in drugs, they had the judges, the attorneys, their families, okay? So they would have programs. Up until recently, now they have it where you have courts where the people who are on drugs can go to court. But it always, the white community always have had it, but the black community has not. Your child get in trouble or whatever, they go into jail. But that has not happened in the community. But not only in Columbus,
Wow.
And this is my thing. I strongly believe in local elections. And I shouldn't have to know you personally to get something done in my neighborhood. And I shouldn't have to live in North Columbus for my property, for me to have a fair shake at what's going on. For a perfect example, and I'm going to hurry up with this. They put new water lines on my street, okay? And I was away on vacation. My husband called me, hey, they done dug up your yard. And it wasn't of interest in him because that's my thing, what I do. So I came back home. They had dug deep, because I live in the oldest house in Columbus. I believe it's the, whatever it is. I live near the old prison. And I believe it's the warden's house.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about. So what happened was, they just put straw on there. And so, it became a full-time job for me to call them. The city would say it's the water department. Until I started collecting phone numbers. And I shouldn't have to have gone through that. And I told them straight up, had I lived in North Columbus, or Green Island Hill, y'all would have did my yard right. And so this was an ongoing thing for months, And then I said, I want my yard the way it was prior to you digging deep down, They brought out the wrong kind of sod. I said, that's not right. And then it got to the point where they came to water. They finally, but it was like a full-time job for me.
Right.
And it's because I live in a predominantly black neighborhood. That is facts, okay? And so that's what I gotta say,
Well, so I don't think your experience is unusual. I think that a lot of people are facing those kind of situations. But I want to go back to kind of something that you addressed as far as different programs being available on the criminal side of things. The one thing that I mentioned before you came in is I want to give more resources to our courts, particularly our accountability courts. So that includes our veterans court, our drug court, our mental health court, where it doesn't matter if you come from a family that says, I'm gonna put you in rehab out of state and we're gonna present all this mitigation to the court and we'll get it taken care of. If you have those resources, great. If you don't, there's an avenue that the city and the state provide to help you do that. Because we want the same outcome. We want to get somebody, especially on drug cases, we want to get somebody the help they need so that they can be back to being a productive citizen, no matter their race, no matter their economic background or resources. So that's one thing that I'm, want to strive to do.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I had two questions. I wanted to draw on your knowledge as an attorney, first and foremost. So we know that if we increase prevention in the beginning, that would decrease rehabilitation and the need for jails and stuff like that. Would you support a juvenile second chance program in regards to less serious offenses?
So, a second chance program. So we have that kind of, and I don't want to get too inside baseball, but juvenile crimes are not convictions, and the juvenile court is set up for kind of a different purpose, so that your record does not really affect you as substantially as your adult record or your record in superior court. I would support that we need to, for those juveniles who end up in superior court, support more resources to make sure that they are best set up going forward while maintaining the Georgia Crime Victims Bill of Rights and those sorts of things.
And you and Natalie both made some very good points, and I've been there as well when it comes to the council meetings and the fact that citizens may have to arrive at 9 a.m. and wait until after 1 p.m. just to speak. I know I have been, I'll call it a victim of that. Mm-hmm. Would you support a weekend day, like a Saturday, for just public agenda, maybe twice a month? That way it would be more conducive to the citizens and residents actually making it there, because 5:30, it's not conducive. By the time kids get off the bus and you're trying to feed them and everything, you really have to be on top of your game and have everything lined up, and that's not always possible for everybody. Would you support something like that, or do you have a different suggestion or idea?
I don't have a different suggestion. I think it's one of those things where it's a logistical issue, it's a systemic issue, there's all kinds of things that go into it. Part of it may be just that, the worst excuse is that's how we've always done it.
Agreed.
And we always need to be looking at, now, it could be that this is just the best way we have, and this is the best of a bunch of bad options. But I think if we are asking those questions rather than kind of blindly saying, well, we're just going to keep doing it the way we've been doing it. I think experimenting, as soon as you start limiting, or there's going to be a group that says you're trying to stifle our speech or anything like that. So, but I think taking a hard look at that is something we really need to do.
Thank you, sir.
So real quick, while we're on the process, we learned that there's a lady in Atlanta, and she went to the jailhouse, and she paid 3 bails because we're allowed to do 3 per year. How does that work here in Columbus? Can we just go down and say we'd like to see 3 of your lowest bail amounts, and they allow us to pay it and get those people out? Because I feel like there's a little confusion where it's not legal, or it is legal here.
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
I think that the lawyer in me wants to give the classic lawyer answer, it depends.
Okay.
I think that would be a very kind of factual, specific thing. I don't know that the sheriff can release information on like lowest amount of bail. I think what I've seen in representing indigent individuals is, we get bonds set very low, and we may have a hearing and a judge may set a $2,000 bond. Now, that would require about $250 to a bondsman to get out. So kind of forget about it and move on. 3 or 4 weeks go by, and we hear from that individual. I say, they're still in jail. They can't come up with, $250, and they can't.
Right.
And so, what we've seen is kind of a trend back. For a while, the courts had eliminated what they called owner's recognizance bonds, no money bonds. But the jail being overcrowded so much forced them to kind of look at how we are going to get some of these people out who have no money. If you have no money, you could have a $10 bond, and you can't make it. So I guess the short answer is I don't know the answer to your question whether or not you can just go and pay some bonds. I think there would have to be probably some sort of assurance, because the bond is just there to secure your appearance in court.
Right.
It's not punitive. It's just there to say, hey, if this person does not come back to court, this money goes away. So if there's no relationship with the person, there may be some issues with that. But I'd be interested to know more about that project.
Okay, yeah, it's a serious concern that we have over 16,000 people backlogged, sitting in jail. And when I hear stories from warrant officers who actually knew people who sat in jail for 2 years and they were innocent, like, I don't understand how that's not an emergency on behalf of our mayor and the city councilors, but to sit in the audience and watch them just not, supposedly supposed to be representing the city, the citizens, and not care about that is a dire concern.
Well, so this is an opportunity maybe for me to not push back a little bit, but I think we also have to recognize the role that city council plays. And that the role that city council plays is a local legislative body. The real crux of those issues goes through our Superior Court judges, which are elected, our clerk, which is elected, and our district attorney, who's elected. Now, I think that there needs to be more of a partnership, but there are limited things that the city council can do to kind of affect the court specifically, other than advocate for resources and those sorts of things.
That's the issue.
And so that's part of it. But as far as policy on moving cases, on which cases to take priority, which bond amounts, cashless bond.
We're tracking that. So
Yeah.
the context is that the Solicitor General appeared before the public agenda, on the public agenda, asking for more staff and more money. And I cannot and will not, and is this an emergency? And it was said to be, it depends on who might think it is an emergency. Those are the concerns. Like, we know that they can't get in the meat and potatoes of the court, but budget-wise, they have some power there. And then also they're saying that there's a judge issue, like we don't have enough judges to see the cases. And so they've known this since 2022. It's not new, but it hasn't been fixed. So that's what I'm saying. Like, what they can do, they aren't doing, and that's a concern.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think, getting the courts and all of our prosecuting bodies and our defending organizations together, getting them the resources they need is a priority for me. And I think it helps because this is something that I work in every day. Every day I'm in state court, superior court. I'm in those dockets that can last longer than I care for them to. So I think that there's nobody really on the council that works in that field the same way.
All right, so my next question is, if there was a major donor in Columbus or a political ally that wanted to get something for the city that wasn't in the city's best interest, how would you address that?
I think going back to just being honest and talking about it. It's hard. I guess it'd be easy for me to say, well, no, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I think I would have the integrity to say this isn't in the best interest and we need to do something else. But I think having that honest conversation, if you have the trust of that person to say, I'm not going to do something that's against the city's best interest, but what are the other options that maybe are more aligned with the city's values or what we're trying to accomplish? sure that political allies or donors or it's a pay-for-play kind of system. But yeah, I think that's something that I would be fine. Like I said, I have difficult conversations every day.
Yeah, I think that's what the citizens want to know, is that you're not going to always be able to vote or give them something that they want. You have to say no sometimes.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the balance that you need to have. And I think that's best to help the citizens understand that, hey, that you're being honest, so that they can see that whenever you do vote for something, you're at least thinking about it, and you're going to give an honest answer of what you feel is best for the city overall. So, she got a question.
Again, I agree to disagree, Mr. George. My concern is, if I am going to vote for you, you need to know my needs and my desires as a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want someone making decisions for my community and they've not communicated with them, or they've not been a part of the community. So with someone saying, well, this may not be a good idea if I do this, it's not for you to decide, it is for you to know your citizens. I when you make a vote, I want it to be the majority of what the citizens want. I mean, I just think that's all right.
Sure.
Because you work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there may be things that the citizens may not understand. You may have resources, and you may be knowledgeable of stuff more, then explain that to us.
Right.
Okay, so that's all.
And
Yeah, I think that in the premise of the question, the best interest of the city, I would always take into account the consensus of the constituents. I mean, that's kind of a baseline for every decision.
How would you do that?
Having open conversations.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to talk to people.
Thank you.
And I'm a very open person. Many people have my cell phone. I can attest to that. I give my cell phone to my clients. I'm accessible, and I want to remain accessible because, like you said, I wouldn't work, for the benefit of Robert Wadkins. I work for the benefit of the constituents of District 5.
Thank you.
So with that stated, I'm glad you brought those points up. One of my major concerns is my background is in leadership. So when we elect people to serve us, that means they are leading from the front, they're representing us. And we do expect that there be town halls or some type of system in place where you can qualify, yes, this is what my constituents want. It's not just something that I'm saying. And we are a part of District 7 being in this location here. And so my concern is that, when you're ineffective in the seat, right now, you cannot get, public works, or you don't have the relationships in public works to get certain things taken care of. There's a house on this road right here for the past 2 years. There's shooting, there's different things that go on, and it hasn't been taken care of. And it's similar to what Ms. Debbie said, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, with people you have put your trust in to be able to get things done. And if you're getting things done as a citizen without them, you don't necessarily need them.
Right.
And so can you speak to your ability? Do you have the app on your phone? Are there initiatives, are there things in the communities that you've already worked on or done or been able to get taken care of prior to moving into the seat as an elected official?
Most of the things that I've done are related to the legal field. The one area that we have had success, I'm the chairman of the Board of Direct Services. We run Meals on Wheels for 16 Georgia counties, including here. We run 7 senior centers. So I have gotten some things done as it relates to getting resources and things for our senior centers here in Columbus and in other jurisdictions. So those are the kind of primary things. Now, being an advocate for more citizen engagement through things like the 311 app or other things, absolutely.
Okay.
I think the more citizen engagement that we can have, the better. And to try and touch those citizens that don't ordinarily come to forums or that don't go to city council, the citizens who are just kind of giving up, like, well, nobody's going to listen to me anyway, or I think it's not good, but try and re-engage some of those citizens. I think that would be a priority.
Okay, and how would you do that? Like, systems make the world go round.
Sure.
How would you do that?
I think expanding the app is a good start. I say that technology is not for me. You can ask my paralegal and most of the people in the office that I have to get in to come fix what I've messed up. But I think getting the young people, and then how do we engage maybe our seniors who
They're not on
an
social
app.
media.
My mom is never going to be able to get that out. That the people who aren't through the direct channels, and I'm not sure how we do that. I think, but knowing the problem exists in your decision making, having that well, is this decision going to re-engage some disenfranchised citizens? I think always trying to have those multiple goals when you're making decisions is important.
Okay. So my next question is, what would you say that city council currently is doing poorly? So I got 2 questions. What is city council currently doing poorly, and what would you do different? And my next question is, what makes you better than your opponent? Or in other words, why should people vote for you over your opponent?
So where to start? I think that one, I don't want to speak too poorly about people who put themselves up for public service.
Okay.
City council is a hard job,
It is.
and it's a lot of time, it's a lot of sacrifice. I think that where my opponent and where city council has kind of fallen off their original purpose, if they just strayed from the mission of good governance. I think one of the biggest issues that we haven't touched on is the firing of the city manager. Whether you agree with and let's walk back. It's not a firing. It was a paid leave with 7 months to go before retirement. So for the city council to make that decision, they say we're going to take the highest paid employee and we're going to pay them to not work. We're going to pay them about $140,000
Jesus.
to not work with no succession plan in place. And we have this reason to quote fire him, but we're not going to fire him for cause. And say that there's no one has made that make sense to me.
Right.
And it seems like a very emotional, reaction. It seems like they're spiteful. And the only people that suffered were the citizens.
Right.
Now, the 2 assistant city managers are doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I work with them, and I don't want to, but we didn't have a succession plan. On top of that, the same counselors, I'm getting on a soapbox here, the same counselors are complaining that we haven't made ground in the search for a new city manager.
Right.
Any potential city manager that's going to be interested in a city this size,
Right.
this is a huge job. This will be the highest paid employee of the city. This is, the way our charter is set up, this is the person who runs the city. Any person who would be good at that job is going to look at the circumstances of that vacancy and say, do I want to come to
Right.
a city where you know, the city council is kind of running roughshod over city staff,
Right.
where they can't work and implement policies, where the reaction is, we're just going to have a supermajority fire a department head, which I don't believe has been done. It's certainly not a common thing.
Right.
And I think it was an exercise of power without thought.
Most definitely.
I think they tried to figure out how they could do it and didn't think, should we do it?
Absolutely.
And I think going back to the very beginning, bringing professionalism, bringing, you know, intentional leadership and saying, hey, is this a good idea? What are the long-term ramifications of this? You know, it's just brought about lawsuits and contentiousness, and we've wasted, I don't know what some line items are for $140,000. I bet you could buy some tarps for some fields, a police car, you could buy all kinds of things that we need.
Right.
That, you know, who knows how much litigation is gonna cost.
Absolutely.
So, it's those types of things that there's you asked me what I thought city council was doing wrong.
Correct.
I think there's a level of recklessness that we've accepted. Recklessness in action, recklessness of language, with how they talk about stuff. And I don't mean to just paint my opponent. I think there's a general acceptedness of saying stuff without thinking. And that's where we don't have a purpose-driven agenda. We don't have, it's reactionary, it's theater. I would love to be a city councilor that you don't hear from, that doesn't pipe up every meeting, that puts their head down and gets the job done, and, you know, puts things forward when it's needed to. So that's where I think we've kind of gone wrong.
I appreciate that you were able to explain that. I feel that the city council has caused a lot of confusion for the city. And they're pointing the fingers, but they are the foundation of why a lot of the concern is what it is. You know, we just recently had the consultant that they hired say that they've been 35 years clean of no financial issues and no wrongs and this and that and the third. And I get that maybe they don't go through every fine tooth and nail and name this, but when you say 35 years of clean record and, you know, they're out of all of the hundreds of, you know, businesses or governments that they look into, like they're at the top. I'm confused as a citizen because we just had 46 million, 26 million, you know, all these different things with the same consultant being present and on the payroll an issue. So there's still confusion there and they're not addressing it.
Correct.
And they are part of that problem. And so I find it very hard, the trust part that you say, the trust and the transparency with our current government, city council, and then I just don't know, most of them need to leave. And that's why we're really counting on you to do well in District 5, because most of them need to leave. In any form of system, there's evaluations. In the Army, we can't kick people out without an evaluation. You gotta document, you gotta have paperwork, and then you can chapter them out. Here, they don't do evaluations, it's not mandatory. So how do you just terminate someone without, and this is in general, without giving them a plan of improvement, and then maybe if they don't improve, you terminate, but we're not seeing any form of professionalism or systems in place for what they are able to do, but they're able to fire people when in fact, I wish as a citizen, we could fire them.
Right.
So, I'm glad that you were able to bring that up because many people will not address it. They'll say, well, you know, it has nothing to do with me, or, you know, I don't want to speak to it, but it's the professionalism. It doesn't matter, and this is how my husband, it doesn't matter whose head's on the body, whose name there. There's a standard in place across the board, period. And that is the issue with our city council, that it's more emotional than it is standard.
Right, and I think the biggest you know, that's not a pro Isaiah Hughley, an anti Isaiah Hughley
Right.
statement.
Isn't it?
If someone falls below the standard, then absolutely put a plan in place, put a succession, you know, plan, and terminate them for a reason. But this, I want you out. It's a spiteful thing.
Really?
We're gonna pay you to be out. You know, this kind of half-hearted with no succession plan, no real plan in place. It just goes back to the recklessness. And I think just bringing more professionalism, more intentional leadership.
Sure.
I should have introduced myself when I came in here. My name is Richard Jensen. I'm a community activist and organizer. We were the ones who restored the Claflin School.
Okay. Yeah.
Last year, I reeled all last year after the 2024 election because I had so many associates and friends, people I thought were decent people, who voted for Donald Trump. I just could not imagine that he would be in office another term. So now I had to stop reeling because it was time to get back to work. That was a whole year trying to just understand. I thought America had gotten better than that.
Yes.
And I was wrong. We have so many crises in the community. And one of the things that our city council, new mayor, has to do is to deal with the race issue. President Obama said it back when he was president. And we just have not done it.
Right.
We are in the process of developing a report card for the local elected officials. And one of the things we want to do is report card is going to be good for elected officials, or it's going to be bad for them, what they do. I was sitting here when you were talking about engaging your constituents. It would be a wonderful thing if a counselor would lead the way in trying to get his area, his constituents more engaged. A lot could be done if the citizens were more engaged, and we saw some leadership from the city leaders. So I just want you to chew on that.
Sure.
And see how that can happen. We're going to have to provide more responsibility from citizens, and we're in the process of doing that. So we have adopted the 31903 zip code, and we're going to work with the citizens there. Anybody who wants to do better, we're going to help them. So we'll be seeing you again.
I hope to.
Okay.
And I'll just kind of briefly say that I think that one of the things that I'm excited about is I'm excited about a lot of the people who stepped up for leadership, young people. Now, despite the grays in my beard, I feel like I'm 43. I'm 43. With the way I look, I don't like calling myself a young person, but I see a lot of people younger than me stepping up for elected office. I see a lot of turnover in some of the big institutions that we've had, whether that be chamber, economic development, all kinds of stuff. We have a youth movement, kind of, and I think that's something to be excited about. I think that's something that if we can engage young people and kind of tap into that energy of the community, I think we can do great things. But absolutely.
Be listening out for the restoration of the Liberty District.
Yes.
We'll be coming to count. When is your election? When?
May 19th is early voting starts April 21st. My team's gonna be mad that I didn't know that off the top of my head, so.
I don't need a mic.
Okay.
I live in District 1,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, and if my candidate does not do what, not just me, for the community, I fire them in the election. Would you ever consider taking on strays, or how could I say it, taking on people who outside of your district? Would you listen to them? Would you help them?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not. This is not a, a city councilor doesn't just, you represent the people in your district, but you also are doing what's best for the community.
Okay.
It's not a,
I'm gonna hold you to
District
that,
5,
sir.
District 5 doesn't exist in a vacuum. I promise, if I'm lucky enough to get on council, listen to you as many.
Fix that. Not lucky, sir.
But
When?
happy to talk to you anytime.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mr. Watkins, we want to thank you for your time. Thank you for, showing up and being a part of this forum. As we get ready to close out this session, before we go, for those who just joined us, thank y'all for being here. If you could just speak to the citizens and let them know why you, and just go ahead and close us out with what you believe intentional leadership should look like. But yeah, the floor is yours, unless you have one more question for us.
Just don't say lucky. We want you to speak victory, sir.
That's right.
We are counting on you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, first I want to thank you guys for hosting this. This is so valuable for our community, to have a thing that we can all come together and hear about it. I know y'all are gonna be here all day, and I look forward to seeing what everybody says and hearing the concerns of the citizens. I'm grateful. As to the reason I'm running, in 2010, when I graduated law school, I had a choice. I had some other options, but I chose to move back to Columbus and start my own law practice. And the reason that I'm running is, selfishly, when my two children have that decision of, am I going to come back to my hometown? I want them to choose to come back to Columbus. I want them to choose to come back to the place where I decided to build a business, where I decided to start a family. But they're only going to do that if Columbus is a safe city, if Columbus is a vibrant city, and a city that has economic opportunities for everybody. And selfishly, I want them to make that decision, but I want everybody's children and grandchildren to make that decision. I want to help build a city that's worthy of choice, that everybody can be incredibly proud as I am to call my hometown. So that's why I'm running. And thank y'all again. This is a great event. Thank y'all for coming. Thank everybody for watching at home.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I think you learned a lot about what you have to offer and bring, which is already standards above what we have currently.
Thank you.
So we appreciate that.
Thank you again, Mr. Watkins.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody for being here. There's refreshments in the back, water, fruit, chips.